Welcome to Resilient Minds 365, where we discuss the resilient stories of entrepreneurs, professionals, and students with mental illnesses to encourage you to strive, thrive, and live in abundance. I'm your host, Cleoni Crawford. Welcome to Resilient Minds, everyone. This is Cleoni Crawford. I'm your host. So today, guys, we have a special guest. As you know, my guests are always very special. So today we have Jonathon Tucker with us. Jonathon, after studying personal development for a number of years, Jonathon has built a wealth of experience that he wants to pass on to A, his students, and B, as many people as possible. After losing his best friend to a rare heart condition at the age of 24, Jonathon pursued many physical challenges to heal the pain he was going through. Unbeknown of mental challenges he was avoiding. His journey through grief has led to launching the Purpose Cycle, a concept to manifest and build towards your goals. So with that said, I now present to you Jonathon Tucker. How are you, Jonathon?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on. It's a huge honor to be on the show. How are you doing today, Cleoni?
I'm doing fantabulous, and that's my word. Amazing. I made it up. Fantabulous.
I may have to pinch that and bring it into the UK if that's okay.
No problem. Take it if you need it. Take it. It is for sale. Actually, it's not for sale. It's free.
Even better.
Yeah, even better. Okay, so we're going to get right into the interview. So tell us more about your profession.
So by day, I am a primary school teacher, which will be an elementary school teacher for those US listeners, around the sort of 8 to 11 age group. And I've been doing that now for, I'd say maybe 4 years. Prior to that, I was a soccer coach, including spending some time in the US for around a year in North Carolina. And I've just always been really passionate about educating people, whether it was in sport or through teaching, which I do now. And more recently, I've been looking at developing concepts and trying to inspire students. And the Purpose Cycle that you mentioned in the bio actually came from a school leaver speech that I composed last year. And it sort of came from there, really.
Wow, interesting. It sounds really cool. So the Purpose Cycle, to manifest and build towards your goals. Can you expand upon that?
Yes. So basically, I was trying to sort of put into words the sort of journey that you go on. And I wanted to explain to the students the journey that I went on from obviously going through difficulties, which we'll talk about later on, and ultimately manifesting them into what I wanted to become, which was a teacher. And then at the end of my goal, when I became a teacher, I realized, well, I read lots of books on how to get from A to B and how to do this and that. And I realized actually it's a cycle, because then it starts again. I want to become something else, and I want to level up and continuously look to build my life up until ultimately fulfillment, which will probably come, for many people in later life, when they can sit back, on their old rocking chair on the deck and think, what a life. So basically that is the concept of the Purpose Cycle in a nutshell. And I'm currently writing a book and developing a podcast to explain it in further detail, really.
And the name of your podcast is?
It's the Purpose Cycle podcast.
Okay.
It's launching on Spotify and things February time. So you'll have to return the favor, Cleoni, and come and appear on that as well.
Yeah, no worries. So the Purpose Cycle, so we understand what pushed you towards it. Yeah, we understand what pushed you towards it. So with that said, I'm going to go into my next question. We're going to dive right into the interview. So what is your mental health diagnosis, and when were you diagnosed?
So I was actually initially diagnosed with social anxiety in around 2015 and 2016. I just found myself at various points. You know what? It actually resonated with me, the interview that you did with Dave Tyler, another British guest that you had, because he mentioned about cancelling events, making excuses. And that was pretty much the same story with me. I admit I'd be sat in my bed, feeling under the weather, so to speak, but actually I was just sort of going through the motions of feeling under the weather physically, whereas it was actually mentally I was feeling really under the weather and not very well. And it would happen, I would be sort of one of those characters who would, be really happy to organize the plans and had all of these big ideas. But then when it came to it, it never happened for me. All of my friends would go out and enjoy it. And I first started to know it at university. I was the head coach of the soccer team, and we went undefeated for the full season and was nominated for a trophy, a really special award at the university awards. And, as the head coach, I made sure all of the players had tickets, all had transport to the event. We, all purchasing our suits, getting really excited. When it came to the night, I actually, my hometown was 2 hours away from my university, and I actually got on a coach and went back to my hometown without telling anybody, because I just couldn't face appearing there. And it was a real shame, because we won the award and I wasn't there to collect the accolade, and it began to become a real obstacle to sort of successes and social events that I should have been at.
Totally understand that. I mean, it sounds like you struggled with a little bit of execution when you're going through your journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would want to do things, but then when it came to it, I had this sort of crippling numbness that didn't allow me to do so. And ultimately, we'll talk about this probably later on, but I did lose my best friend in 2014 due to a heart condition, and he was out of hospital for a short period of time. And he organized a night where we could all go around and play poker and just have fun and talk. And again, it happened again to me, and all of my friends were supposed to go and they did, and I didn't go. And unfortunately, that was the last time that my friend saw my friend Stephen, and it became really difficult to live with that. Following obviously his death, I would constantly punish myself for that reason, and it took me such a long time to really, I don't know, digest it and process that, and actually realize it wasn't me. It was my illness or condition that prevented me from seeing my friend.
Right. Wow. I totally get that. And that leads me to my next question then, which is to tell us your mental health story of resilience. What happened? Tell us more about how, what your mental health was looking like and how you were able to be resilient and bounce forward.
So the first step really was to have a realization of myself, and it almost like a difficult conversation that you don't want to have with a colleague, or a difficult conversation with a family member. It's as equally as difficult to have that conversation with yourself and face up and think, look, this is the issue and I need to address it. And it's not really that highly publicized for men my age in the UK. It certainly wasn't at the time, to go out and speak to somebody and talk about the issues that you're having, especially in the environment in which I worked in. I worked in a professional soccer environment, and it was just not spoken about. And that is a gender stereotype that has slowly drifted away over time, and we are working at that and making great strides towards that. But at that time, and it's not many years ago, only 7 or 8 years ago, it just wasn't spoken about. So I did sort of bottle things up and keep things under the carpet, so to speak, for such a long time, and until basically it broke down relationships with both girlfriends or friends, even family members. At times I became very much on my own and isolated, and I was almost crying out for help, but I was pushing people away at the same time.
Yeah. So as a man, what was that doing towards your manhood?
It was just, I would go out and disappear for long walks and things for quite some time. I would become completely closed in. And for someone who has a social job, so to speak, I was a soccer coach. I had to put on a performance every single day.
Right.
And especially because it was to young kids, 10, 11 years old, these aspiring professional soccer players. I had to put on this performance of being full of energy, full of joy, all the time. And then even when you go into the workplace after, into the office, and there's, that sort of banter that's taking place between people. What's up with you? Sort yourself out. You look miserable. And it was, little things like that, but you think, it's because I am. And you can't really talk about things like that. And it was really strange because I was sitting in a psychology seminar with my team, with my young team, 11 years old, and they were getting that education from the sports psychologist, how to, speak out, talk about things like anxiety, because it's a high pressure environment, and the players were getting taught how to cope with these high pressure situations. And I thought, I need that, obviously in a different environment, but I need that. So I ended up seeking help and eventually getting some therapy.
Wow, that sounds quite exhausting, like,
It
yeah.
does. It feels like a really, really old mobile phone, cell phone. When the battery is, pretty much, it needs to be on charge all the time.
Right.
And as soon as you take it off charge, it drains. It drains so quickly. Within a couple of hours, you need to charge it again. It's very much like that. If I could compare it to any sort of metaphor, it would be that. And that is basically the social anxiety that I was going through university days. I mean, to be honest, ever since I turned 18, because obviously the drinking age in the UK was 18, you start going out to nightclubs and things. And I would just try and mask it by drinking lots. And it's quite an unhealthy relationship when you look back at it. At the time, a lot of people say, well, that's what you like when you're young and you're going out partying all the time. But really, I was doing that for reasons just to try and become a new person, because I just couldn't deal with that and really cope with that social situation. I'm very much an introvert anyway. And I really like Simon Sinek's definition of introverts and extroverts. And if you're an introvert, you're almost getting you're spending tokens constantly, and you feel depleted by the end of a social interaction. Whereas if you're an extrovert, you're gaining tokens and you feel rich and full of life afterwards. And that I was very much drained and exhausted by the end of each sort of scenario.
Wow. Yeah, I'm an extrovert, definitely. I receive energy when I'm around people. And that's why, unfortunately, with the pandemic, it's quite challenging for me as an extrovert to not have that social connection with other people, which, thankfully, I have a support system of friends and family that I can actually reach out to. But it can just be challenging, to I can only imagine how many people around the world who are going through this pandemic and are losing friends. I mean, don't have access to friends, and they're not seeing people, they're not hugging people, they're not kissing people. You know what I mean? On the cheek, the two kisses. They're not able to do any of these basic things that we take for granted. And yeah, so totally understand, totally hear you.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I was just thinking about that as well, because I've got lots of friends who are extroverts, and I sort of do have a little bit of that side to me because of the nature of my work as well, my profession being a teacher. You have to be able to sort of get up and do a lot of speaking. But that's happened over time, and we'll talk about sort of the journey. But even doing this, having to stay at home and stay away from people, I would much prefer to talk about this sort of thing with you on a podcast on my own, rather than to sit with my group of friends now and discuss some of the things that we've been through over the last 10 years. And it's crazy to think, and people who are listening might think, well, why can't you feel like he can talk to his friends? I've got a great set of friends and I absolutely adore all of them, but it's just so difficult, I feel, to have, as my personality, to have that. And I'm still working on myself now to this day. I've become very comfortable speaking out about my mental health with my fiance, who's an excellent listener and very understanding. And I think it's all about the process and making sure that you can take baby steps. I'm not wanting to go and speak to a group of 10, 12 people about things, but I can speak to you, I can speak to other individuals about things. Then I will slowly and surely build up that confidence.
Amazing, amazing. So what did you have to do to overcome or bounce back from your low points? List all resources that are applicable.
So basically, from that social anxiety came a really hard hitting case of grief. My friend Stephen had lost his battle with a disease called giant cell myocarditis. And it was from around April, May time, 2014, and he ended up dying in October, just shy of his 24th birthday. And a lot of we didn't really know anything about myocarditis at the time. We thought he was invincible because he was the epitome of health. He played professional soccer in his youth ages, played tennis to a high standard, loved going and working out at the gym. And it was this illness that seemed to affect older people. And it basically, it's when your heart sort of slowly deteriorates and stops carrying oxygen, and it slowly dies basically. So he needed a transplant, and it was upon the transplant where he passed away.
Wow.
And from that point, the impact of that completely knocked away anything that I was internally suffering with before, this social anxiety, because this grief became something that my friends and I shared. So it wasn't an individual battle anymore. It was something that we shared together. And I remember being sat in one of my friends' houses, and we were all just sat around the table silent. And I felt like that was the time to then be able to come together as a group and share feelings and really talk. And that was the beginning for me, just speaking out and just saying about how I feel. And it was quite uplifting, and it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders, just to say nothing about my own social anxiety, but just about how I was feeling about the grief, because then it felt somebody else would open up, and it was a butterfly effect, so to speak. So the first thing I did was, not even maybe a week later, my mind, where I'm very much project orientated, and that's just the way I cope with grief. I always like to be busy. I don't like to be alone with my thoughts quite a lot. I like to be busy. And I said, right, we need to do a soccer event, and we need to try and get the word out about myocarditis, because we had no idea how. We didn't think it was deadly. We just thought, oh, Steve will get over it, it's fine, 23 years old, really healthy, he's going to be fine. And we need to get that story out. So me and my friends worked on this project together, and that was something that began to really, I don't know, just process things really. And what I saw in hindsight was actually it was delaying what we were truly feeling, because we were keeping our minds busy and we were working on things. But at the time, we felt like we were dealing with things. And I'm not sure if the listeners or yourself have had that before, where you sort of just, like I say, sweeping things under the rug and delaying the processing phase, really.
Definitely. But the one thing that I liked about your point is, you were talking about the importance of community, like just connecting with people,
Yeah.
because that the energy, depending, that you feel between it is powerful on itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so
It was crazy, because I didn't have to be in a performance. I didn't have to be on a night out full of energy. I could just be John, and my friends were like, we're the same. We're all hurting. And yeah, that was just, that community was definitely the case. And we'll obviously talk about some of the other challenges later on that I felt like I had to do individually, but
mhm.
I should have always thought back to that moment when we were all sat together and thought, we're actually in this together throughout. It's not one individual battle.
Right, right. So my next question is, what three things would you wish you had available when you were at your lowest point?
So the first one was probably an understanding from my peers prior to the grief.
Mm,
I did undertake quite a lot of things to try and like mask what was happening. Like I said it, like you said in the bio, the physical challenges. So like I've run marathons, climbed mountains, and tried to do all these different challenges to put my body under extreme stress to try and feel some sense of achievement. But the crazy thing is, despite all of the things that I've attempted and managed to accomplish, which I'm proud of, but the thing I'm most proud of is probably the battle that nobody's aware of, and that was the psychological battle to process grief effectively and move on with my life. And understanding from my peers was probably the first thing that I wish I had available. Now, what I'd like to extend on in that point is, I
mhm.
probably would have had that understanding from my peers. I will have had that, and a lot of listeners who are listening to the show need to understand that you do have the understanding from your friends, your close friends, family, your close circle. It's just about having the courage to talk, and just having to open up that conversation. That's the
Right.
first one.
Right, right. The
Yeah.
second one.
A mentor or a guide, somebody who has been
Yeah.
through that before. I did actually, when we went in the process of setting up the charity for my friend, we ended up, from that soccer event, we turned over £10,000 in the event, and we launched a charity. And I did speak to people who had been in the same situation. I was asking them all charity-based questions, and how they did this, how they did these projects. What I should have said was, how did you get through what you had to go through? Because these people were 10 years older than me, and I should have realized that really I needed a mentor or a guide in order to help me get through the anxieties that I was having at the time.
Cool. And number three.
The third one is purpose. Basically, I just wish that I had, quite obviously aptly named with the concept, but that's because I was looking for that purpose. I was a soccer coach, but it doesn't particularly pay amazingly, and it's nothing that I could have made a full career out of. It was fantastic because I was working for my team that I supported as a boy, and that was really nice. But that can only really get you so far when you want to progress through your 20s into your 30s and move on and meet somebody and develop a relationship, buy a house, and all of these different things. I wanted to find my purpose, and I was like, but at the same time, I have to do something that I'm really passionate about and that I care about. I can't just go into any job. I have to be happy in what I do. And that's obviously when I didn't discover teaching, obviously, but I just thought, well, let's go for it. It was actually at school I was coaching soccer at, and I said, you know what, you'd make a great teacher because you don't just teach soccer, you talk about life lessons and resilience and all of these different things. And I thought, actually, I'd like to give it a try. And here we are today.
Wow, amazing. There was something I wanted to mention. It skipped me, but those are three really good points. So, what words of hope can you give our listeners today?
So what I'd like to just basically say to all of the listeners, like I said before about obviously opening up that conversation, you'll always have somebody that understands. But for me, there's always a way back from a place where you feel lost or trapped. When you're walking around or, sat there thinking you're at rock bottom, you're not, because you realize that you're at rock bottom. Those people who are truly at rock bottom don't realize, they're oblivious to it. And there is a life that you can sculpt for yourself in the face of any adversity at all. There's always a way back, and there's always, I love a good journey story. And you always think about something out of a film, but these things do happen in real life, and you can sculpt the life that you desire as long as you manifest it.
Love it. Love, 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 love it. So now we're going to take a switch. We're going to change the gears of this episode and talk about some more fun stuff that I personally love. As you can see behind me, there's a book, and the book is called The Music of My Life. So right now we're going to talk about music therapy. So my question to you is, what type of music do you like?
So I like a wide range of music. I like sort of R&B, hip hop and things like that. But I've got to say, from my visit to the United States 2013, North Carolina, I love country music. I fell in love with country music over there.
No way.
Yeah. I had to do a lot of driving while I was over there to lots of different places to coach soccer. And I just had country music on all the time because I didn't know which radio stations to pick. And I just fell in love with country music.
That's crazy, because honestly, I'm very eclectic, and I love all types of music, 70s, 80s, 90s, Motown, and a little bit of alternative rock, hip hop, R&B, gospel. You know what I mean? I love it all. But guess what I don't like?
Country music.
Country music.
Oh, no.
But I'm sure we can still get along, so don't worry. As long as you put country in the car, we're good. We're good.
Maybe it's because that's all I heard, and that it was sort of ingrained into me.
Right. Definitely. So my question to you is, if you were to think of a song that best describes your journey, what would it be and why?
Okay, so I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one and pick two. But the first one is a Kanye West song, because when I was younger, I just loved Kanye West, growing up with Kanye West basically. And there's a line from his first album from the song Through the Wire. And he says, "But I'm a champion, so I turn tragedy to triumph." And that is just something that just really does strike me. I just love that line, a tragedy,
Yeah.
triumph. I just love that. And that is exactly what I said before, when you can come back from the face of adversity. And because he actually wrote and performed that song when his jaw was wide shut after an almost fatal car crash. So, and that was part of his inspiration behind writing the song. So I just absolutely love that line. And that was something that stuck with me since I was, maybe 13. So,
That's
yeah.
crazy, amazing.
Um,
Triumph is what I'm taking from that. Triumph. And number 2,
Yeah.
what's the second one?
So it's a song called "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers.
Yes, I know of it.
Yes. And basically it's a huge metaphor for life. My dad's a huge fan of this song as well, actually. So fair play to him. And obviously it talks a lot about like gambling and poker and things like that, and holding cards and folding. But actually it's a metaphor for life. And it says every hand's a winner, but every hand's a loser. And I think that's a huge hint at perspective, and when situations happen to you, and how you can frame a situation to work in your favor and ultimately succeed out of it, where lots of people may stagnate over worrying about circumstances that have happened to them. It's about taking ownership and understanding, but also not being humble, because know when to fold them is obviously knowing when actually, right, okay, I need to remain humble. So being level-headed and having a great understanding of life, I feel, is what I get from that song.
So is that the song? Gotta know when to hold them. Is that the one?
That's the one. That
know
is the
when
one.
to fold them.
Yeah.
Know when to something and know when to walk away. Yeah, I like
That's
that
the one.
song. It's a really good one.
And he says as well, you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. And I think that's it. End of, like I said before, you're on your deck on a rocking chair, reminiscing of your life, and then you can look back and go, yeah, wow. But whilst you're there, you got to make sure you keep going.
Yeah, amazing. So how can we stay in touch with you? What are your social media handles?
So as you mentioned earlier, my Instagram is @thepurposecycle, and I try to put lots of positive messages on there. I basically run the page as if it's just for me and my own personal page, and try to inspire myself each day, but it's things that I want to share with others as well. So @thepurposecycle. I'm also on lots of podcast platforms, that's the word, such as Spotify, all of those different ones, the Purpose Cycle podcast. And I'm also as we speak today, in development of a website, which is www.thepurposecycle.com.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. And let me know, definitely contact me if you need some more direction in regards to how to do like media and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Contact me, because I have some really good contacts in Zimbabwe that basically they have about 1,000 employees, called Afroblocks. They are phenomenal.
Wow.
So yeah,
I'd love that.
They can help you like develop an app if you needed to. So yeah,
wow.
they're phenomenal. So
that'd be amazing, Cleoni. Thank you. And also, I'd love to speak to you in more detail about the music therapy side of things. So whenever I'll drop you an email after this, and we'll try and arrange you to come on the Purpose Cycle.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So basically, thank you very much, Jonathan. You have been super fantabulous. That's my new word.
I love it. It's what I'm pitching for free.
Thank
you, Cleoni.
Huh?
Thank you, Cleoni. Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm definitely going to pinch that word.
Okay, no problem. So, and to all your resilient minds out there, until next time, please subscribe to us on all our platforms, and don't forget to rate the show and leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Also, join the community of resilient minds and sign up for our monthly newsletter at cleonicrawford.com. Be sure to grab a copy of my book, The Music of My Life, and 30+1 Resilient Stories on all Amazon marketplaces to get to know me better. If you can think of one person that will receive value from today's show or connect with Jonathan's testimonial, please share it with them. Feel free to take a screenshot of this week's episode of the podcast and tag us on Instagram. You can tag myself at Only Cleoni or Resilient Minds 365, and today's guest at The Purpose Cycle. And remember, mental health is not a death sentence. Despite your illness, you can strive, you can thrive, and you can live in abundance. Until next time, I'm Cleoni Crawford, and I'm signing off.